Georgia, TCU, they're playing for the national championship. You had Michigan and Ohio State in the playoff. Who could be next? I'm not necessarily saying teams that have never made the playoff, but teams that have been out of the picture. We had a Twitter question about this, and it got us talking earlier today about who could be next. So just frame it up in your own mind. Maybe they've been to the playoff, but they've been down. Who that's not currently in that playoff picture will be next? Because I came up with 4 names, pretty off the top of my head. And the first one's Penn State. I had Jesse sitting across from me, so it certainly didn't hurt their matters at all. There are many facets of the program, I think, that are trending in the right direction. So as much as I love Sean Clifford, quarterback's trending in the right direction here. Imagine, if you will, a world where you have a guy who's capable of playing every week like Sean Clifford just played in the Rose Bowl. What a world that would be. Well, Drew Aller, I believe, and many believe, has the capability to be that kind of player. Check at quarterback. Certainly they have recruited very well, and you've already seen the fruits of that payoff at the running back position. Trending up. Check. Offensive line. Had been a weakness a year or two. Trending up. Check. Tight end. They'll be good there. Check. And then when we flip over to the defensive side of the ball, I got Manny Diaz. You see what he did this year, and they will continue, I think, to trend in the right direction there. I also think they're going to add 1 or 2 more guys at receiver from the portal. The foundation is laid. They keep on adding thin layer after thin layer. And the reason I say thin is because they have not gone from being average to just exploding into the playoff picture overnight. That's not the way it's happening there. But what is happening is it's slowly but surely, you got the stovetop on, but it's not on full blast. So it's just taking the pot of water a little bit longer to heat up. But the thing about the little frog, earmuffs, kids, this is going to be graphic. When you take the little frog, I'm going to use the chalice here, and you drop the frog in room temperature liquid, and then you heat it up, that frog doesn't realize it's being boiled to death. Now, if I had it at 212 already and I dropped the frog in, he just jumps right back out. Well, Penn State is the first pot of water. They're the pot of water that was like room temperature, and they're slowly heating up. And they're going to come to a boil, and it's going to sneak up on you. They're going to make the playoff eventually, and you're going to be surprised, and I just don't think you should because the indicators are there right now. Let's go to Eugene, Oregon right quick. I am naming Oregon over USC on the West Coast. I am doing that because as much as I love Lincoln Riley and USC, they're doing something at Oregon I've still got to see them do at USC, and that is loading up on defense with a head coach that has a proven track record defensively. And they're doing it in a big way. And so when I'm looking forward, I'm asking myself, okay, what do I think about the staff out there? I like the staff out there. I'm not just talking about Lanning. I'm talking about the guys he has under him. And I'm talking about the pedigrees they have. On the field and off the field, it's not a regional staff. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a regional staff, but the further west you go, the more I prefer you to have a group of guys who have been all around the country. Number one, because that's the way you have to recruit. And especially in the Northwest, that's the way you have to recruit. Well, they've got them. They've got them all throughout that building. They are taking an approach that is a lot more balanced in nature. There's no one walking the building in there who says, we'll just outscore them every week. That's not the approach there. However, they can score on you. One of the most important recruitments that's happened right under your nose has been Bo Nix coming back. Like, I think Oregon's in position to potentially be a playoff team next year, or at the very least, they'll be in that conversation because I don't think Bo Nix has maximized his potential yet. He just had a really good year. I think he came back because he believes he's capable of having a better year. And I, if he does believe that, agree with him. So I've got Oregon there, and I know they love to hear that at Washington. Boy, they love to be ignored. And I'm going to do you guys a favor. It's not that I don't see you. I just know you would prefer me not to list you there. And so I'm doing you a solid, and I'm not going to list Washington. How about that? Texas, what am I doing? What am I doing? I look at Texas. Oh, sorry, Colin. I look at Texas, and this made sense when I wrote it earlier. So I'm going to go ahead with this. But you know that I've had my fair share of disagreements with the old model here when it came to picking Texas and trying to judge Texas. Texas and North Carolina were the 2 toughest programs for us as a show to get a read on. This, I feel like, truly we affected the outcome of Texas and North Carolina games. Meaning anytime we picked them to cover, they didn't cover. And I truly feel like if we would have picked them not to cover, it would have changed the outcome of the game. That's how snake bit we were. And therefore, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me to mention Texas here, but I'm going to. Because on the surface, on this slightly abused piece of paper here, I see 5-7 becoming 8-4. I do see, it's granted it's just 2 years, but I do see things trending up. I think line of scrimmage recruiting has been handled very well here. Quarterback, one way or the other, is going to be a strength for him because if it's not Quinn Ewers, you got Arch Manning coming in the door. So quarterback is not a question mark for me here. Not everyone explodes overnight. Okay, it would be great if you hired Sark and year one or even year two, they were 11-1 playing for a Big 12 championship. That would have been great. It didn't happen. Just like it didn't happen for the next team I'm going to talk about in a second. It didn't happen overnight. That doesn't mean it can't happen. It didn't happen for Dabo Swinney overnight. Special things eventually ended up happening there. Well, I think that this Texas group is going through and has gone through some things that are going to be beneficial in the future. Because when you just ask yourself what ingredients are needed to be a playoff contender, we're not talking about just outright winning a championship. We're talking about being a playoff contender and potentially making it into that playoff, that 4-team field. Out of the teams that haven't been there, where is a better set of ingredients? And clearly what we're talking about there is an adequate talent roster and not having big question marks at quarterback and just having dynamic skill players, line of scrimmage being developed. It's not where it needs to be. That's not what the segment's about. I think it will eventually be there. And your great unknown here, obviously, is Steve Sarkisian himself, and I don't have a problem if you list that as the reason you don't buy into this. You can't be proven until you prove yourself. Like at one point, everyone was unproven until they proved themselves. So maybe it's in the cards. Maybe. FSU is the other team. FSU did not do what I think a lot of folks wanted them to do, and you will not see record of this because they've made sure, these people have made sure to delete the records of calling for Mike Norvell to be fired. But you're out there. You are out there. And it was not all that long ago because he hasn't been there but 3 years. Persistence and patience is paying off here. A whole lot of P's paying off in Tallahassee. And I think early on, they went hard in the portal. And I think some people mistook Mike Norvell in Florida State going hard in the portal initially as evidence they just planned on trying to hotshot their way to an ACC championship. Hotshotting means cutting all the corners, microwave over oven, sugar high over sustainable energy. That's not what they did. They, through sheer means of necessity, did lean on the portal, and they're still doing it. That doesn't mean they weren't building the program the right way. They absolutely were. You know, when you look at some guys, we go to the gym every day. There's some guys in there with really impressive upper bodies, but you could index finger press them onto their back because they don't ever touch legs. Mike Norvell does legs. This program does legs multiple times a week. They've got a sturdy foundation. They couldn't build it overnight, but they finally have a sturdy foundation. And then you start to get into the more particular nuances of the program. And you know, hey, Jordan Travis is back next year. We are still a very attractive destination in the portal. Number one portal class in the country right now, as a matter of fact. And the other thing is that there's a lot of uncertainty elsewhere in the state of Florida. And that does nothing but help them. And I guess there's yet another and here. Who can they not beat in the ACC? I mentioned this the other day, and it was a good point. I'm surprised I didn't clip it. Every now and then, though, I stumble onto one of these. What are you used to in the ACC? What am I used to? I am used to opening up a preview magazine or arriving in August and looking at an odds sheet, and it's Clemson and then 10 miles and then everyone else jumbled together, but it's basically Clemson's to use, and that's even what the odds look like coming into this year, and that's actually how the conference played out again this year. I don't foresee the conference playing out like that next year. I don't foresee the conference looking like that at the outset next year. Now, Clemson, sure enough, will still be your odds-on favorite. There won't be a massive gap. And if you're a Florida State fan or you're just observing the program, no longer are you looking at that schedule and going 1, 2, 3. Okay, so there's 3 sure losses, and then there's 2 or 3 question mark games. Maybe they win 7, maybe 8. That's not the way it's going to go there anymore. You're going to look at the schedule and you're going to say, wow, they actually could win every one of these games. They'll be capable of winning every one of these games. You may not call them to go 12-0, but they can win all of these games. There will not be the automatic X's on the schedule because they're good enough now to where you don't talk about them like that. Now, we've got plenty of time to do this, but there is going to be a ton of momentum behind people calling FSU their dark horse next year, or maybe just out in the open. Favorite to win the ACC. I have no clue where I'm going to land because Meemaw told me never make September picks in January. But it could happen.
Guys, thanks for watching Late Kick. Make sure to leave a comment. I love interacting with you. But most of all, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. That's how we keep all of this free.